right. So everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me. I'm Kriste from Black Women's Alliance of Denver, and I am just so proud and excited to be able to share this conversation with you. So, a little bit about how these moving conversations online started is that in my day job, one of the things that I do is interview people and talk about issues of the day and spiritual growth and development and all that kind of stuff. And so I figured while we're on this shutdown, I want to be still be talking to people. And particularly as it relates to Black women, because quite often we are on the front lines of service, caring for people, caring for patients, caring for our families and our communities. And too often we fall behind in caring for ourselves and getting the support that we need. And so I want to invite some women, some powerful teachers whose work I respect and admire and who are just great people to come into this conversation. And today I am in conversation with Ruth King. And Ruth King is an author. She is a spiritual wisdom teacher. She is a coach. She is a mentor and friend. And she is the author of Healing Rage and Mindful of Race. And so, Ruth, I just want to open it up to you now to expand on that.
Rage and race. Wait a minute. Where does that? How do two things go together?
Okay, I think a lot of Black women can speak to that. Don't get me going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really quite a time for us. You're right. I love what you're saying about how we often are kind of outputting of our energy and service, and it's almost like we have because of what we see and what we feel, it's kind of a liability to some extent to our spirituality. The liability being the exhaustion, the chronic fatigue, the outpouring that really speaks to how vast our heart is, right? And I think we also can have that tendency of exiting the premises of the body to where we need to be to stay grounded and clear, and to create a sense of inner stability. So I think we often are navigating that edge of service and serving what this body and heart needs. I think that's a particular challenge for us as Black women to be able to kind of manage and navigate that without feeling like we're being selfish or that we should, all these ways that we so-called hold it together, and the invisibility of our need for tenderness and self-care, the invisibility of that, because we have to be the ones that are, pulling rabbits out of hats and making it all come together.
Mm-hmm. Making do, making the silk purse out of the sow's ear, all of that stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
One of the things that I left out is that you are an insight meditation teacher as well, and a great mentor to many. Can you talk about how a healing practice at this time, and at any time, can serve us? And what do you think are some steps that we could take just to really reclaim our time and ourselves?
Yeah. Well, the mindfulness meditation practice has really been profound in my own spiritual practice, in the sense of steadying the heart and mind, and not turning away from just the harshness of life. So the practice has supported me, and it's almost like a parallel process where we're practicing while we're also, doing our life. Our life then becomes our practice, but there's a steady flow of attending through the mindfulness meditation practice that supports our nervous system, our heart system, in staying steady and stable. So the practice of pausing and turning inward and settling and knowing the experience of settling has been quite the refuge, because when I get steady, I can see more clearly. When I'm steady, I can not be in reaction, I can be in choice. When I'm steady, I can befriend um, the activation that I'm feeling, the fear that I'm feeling. I can put my arms around it. I can tenderize it in some ways to so that I'm not in reaction, not in reactivity to all of the chaos and craziness that's around me. But the practice is something that's like a intravenous feeding of stability and care and kindness that's kind of moving through your veins through a steady dose of daily stillness, turning inward, settling, comforting self, being at ease, so that then we can open to the truth of things without being in reaction to it. So the practice of mindfulness meditation has totally served that directly. It's served this sense of I can be with myself. A lot of people right now are talking about um, being afraid, like with this pandemic and so on. But I don't want us to confuse fear with our intolerance of just being with ourselves, right? I mean, sometimes we can, sometimes it's not so much about being afraid, it's about being inconvenienced. Like we just don't have things happening the way we might want them to happen. And what we get in touch with is some of the distractions or the ways we've been in reaction to the world. When that gets toned down because we're at home or turned inward, because a lot of us don't have homes, let's be clear. But everybody is talking about going home, and some of us who have homes doesn't mean it's safe and caring. So there's a lot of notions we have about going home, being safe. It's not safe for everybody, but for many of us it is. And but I think we get terrified of ourselves, of our solo selves, so to speak, because what we're tumbling into is that we're not so solo, that a lot of our experiences are shared, of course. But I would like for us in this turning inward to really befriend ourselves, to really put our arms around ourselves and comfort the fear that we have, the agitation that we feel. I mean, we're certainly living in a world where there's a lot to be pissed off about, a lot to go nuts about. But can we also be with that with as large a heart as possible? And so a mindfulness practice for me has cultivated that territory for me to rest in while I do what must be done, but at least I'm not in resistance to who I am and how I am. I'm not fighting my imperfection. I'm not fighting with my discomfort. I'm embracing it, through a daily dose of being still with myself, being quiet, settling my nervous system, being in gratitude, reminding myself of what of my many sisters, my many brothers, my many kin folks that are dealing with this just like I am, and just holding them all in a heart of care and in a settled heart, or a heart that is settling. So I think the practice, long story, but I think the practice of mindfulness supports this kind of inner resource of being able to embrace the truth of what's here and love it to a place of transmutation, whatever the agitation might be.
Ruth, You have said so much in that
Mm,
response.
mm,
You talked about the activation and being able to be with ourselves and to tenderize it, and
mhm.
you know, and the lack of safety that many of us might be feeling right now, and being with the solo self. And so, one of the questions that came up for me was, what if I am so enraged or
Mhm,
feeling disempowered right now because the world continues to ask more of me, my family,
mhm,
my home
mhm.
life is maybe not stable or is less than I desire, or I had all these plans to do X.
Yeah,
They're come crashing to a halt.
right.
In addition to in addition to trying to create this safe space within ourselves,
Mhm.
maybe there's so much on our plate, it's how can I even turn toward that when I am outraged and my needs, I feel like my basic needs are
Mm,
not being met.
mhm,
Like,
mhm.
what is that first step to turn
Right.
inward? Because I look at you and so many teachers that I admire and revere, and you have had decades of being in this work and teaching it and integrating it into your life. And here I am looking for something, yet it's hard for me to just sit still. What
Yeah.
I do in that place, particularly right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big question, right? And
Yeah.
there's no one answer to it. But I think one of the words that really got my heart that you just spoke was halt.
Mm.
And the other one was basic needs, right? So, and the one that comes to my mind, the word that comes to my mind in the mix of this inquiry that you just tossed out is the fact of our interdependence. I think in the halting, we get to really see the kaleidoscope of our lives, and it all feels immediate. It's all, we're seeing it all at one time.
Mhm.
So it's hard to look, and yet that's the invitation that we have in this halt, to halt all the activity so that we can see it. And if it is overwhelming, we come to that word that you spoke so beautifully, basic needs. So we can't think long term right now in this big kaleidoscope. We almost have to think breath by breath for right
Mhm.
now. Right, in this breath, what's needed. In this breath, how do I settle? In this breath, what can I embrace? And what can I love more? In this breath, what can I appreciate about the human experience, not just my own experience? So the halting is actually a stripping away of being in what we typically are in reaction to. And what it does in this kind of social distancing forces us into the distance from the immediacy of activity to the halting of our activity to be with it in a more intimate way. So I think, in a way, to the degree that we can tolerate breath to breath activity. What we don't want to do is overwhelm ourselves with looking at the kaleidoscope all in one go. I
Okay.
think we need to keep it basic. We need to keep it immediate. Like, what in this breath can I do to soften? What in this breath can I do to hold my babies? What in this breath can I do to send love to the people that I know that are struggling? What in this breath is teaching me about the human experience? Um, what in this breath can I acknowledge that I can't fix and that is out of my control, right? Because that's the other delusion we have, that if we just do enough, it's gonna all. So I think we're stripped in this halt. We're called to slow it down. I mean, there's the truth of the matter is that we're not in control. We're not in control of the virus. We can only do our part. We're not in control of this current political climate, but we do our part. So it's kind of like a sobering process that we're invited to taste a bit more around what we can do. What there's a lot of shit that's not right right now, but there's still stuff we can do. We still have control over our response to it. And I think if we don't try to take the whole piece in, we can take a bite at a time, a breath at a time, so that we can stay in our seat. I think the other thing is that we don't want to underestimate the power of prayer. We don't want to underestimate the power of extending our heart out. You know, I grew up in a faith tradition. My mother had amazing faith in God. She had faith in God that would just have you trembling at your knees. People might have other words for it, but this is a time for that to be amplified and not underestimated. We need to be sending our goodness out because we can't put our bodies out there. We have to send our goodness out. And when we send our goodness out, when we are in a space of kind of perpetual gratitude and prayer, or whatever word you have for it, I think we don't feel so alone because the act of doing that is purifying, you know, and it's radiant and it gives us light. It lightens up the heart and it connects us to source. And when I say source, I mean that we are connected to each other. So, I mean, I think we're in a place where the simple things are the most profound right now, not the big things, the simple things that are most profound. And, you know, I think like I've been home. I'm not calling it being stuck, you know, because I've been meditating. I've been in a number of retreats for like 3 months, 6 months. So it's not like I don't know how to be with myself. But my partner and I are under the roof together for an extended period of time. Wait a minute. I'm used to us being on a plane and in other places. And hi, honey, texting here and there. Now we're under the same roof. You know, I'm kind of like, oh, do I really know this person? Do I need a divorce? You know, I mean, you know, we're all kind of having to deal with some other realities. Now we can try to get out there in the world and fix that, but here's an opportunity to fix what's really near, like your pet that's been waiting for you to be home for the last 20 years, and it's like they're happy. You know?
Right.
So, you know, what would it be like for us to just look around and embrace simplicity, embrace the fact that we've got a roof or that we've got color. I'm looking at your pillows and it's like, look at how delicious that is. Can that feed us, right? Can that feed us? And I also think we're challenged with like, you know, you get used to Amazon, getting on Amazon, something's delivered the next day. Well, now you have to think about the person that's delivering it, right? That they might be in danger from doing that job. And so there's all this intimacy with life that I think we get to touch into because we have to think of our interdependence. We have to, the virus is telling us that we don't have boundaries, that this is air. Air does not respect any territory or country, or, you know, we are vulnerable beings. We all get ill, we all die, we all, you know, so now we get to see what our impact is on other people, you know, and you know, us as Black folks, we're quite vulnerable. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know who have depended on 2 or 3 jobs and tips in the restaurant. You don't get that. And so that the immediacy of livelihood, you know, the poor health system, and, you know, we're just profoundly impacted. And if we can't be out there in the flesh servicing that, we can certainly turn inward to stabilize ourselves enough to just be in our immediate reach with our families, with our reality around us, with our prayers, and know that that's not small. Those are big things when we take care of the heart in this way.
You know, one of the many precious pieces that you shared in there was about the air and how it is irrespective of our boundaries, it connects us. We are connected to it. Is it, um,
Right.
our life, part of our life force. And the same is true of the meditation practice, right?
Hmm.
Breath. It's the breath that connects us to the immediacy of the
Yes.
and what is. So, how profound that this virus is in the air, is in our, and the breath is right there with the air, and air
That's right.
is intermingled.
That's right. Exactly. I was talking
Huge.
to my partner last night about, in at the end of each day, we do a gratitude practice, and what came up for me was how many people have died from this virus, and that
Mhm.
a lot of the deaths have been associated with not having enough oxygen, not having
Mhm.
air, right? So
Mhm.
that kind of terror,
Yeah.
of not being able to catch our breath or not having breath, and yet the breath, there's nothing more immediate to us than our breath in our bodies. It's always right here to be known, always right here, keeping us in the present moment. These are the two things that are always in the present moment. Our mind can go in a lot of different directions, but our breath
Mhm.
is always right here or it's not. And just to touch into our fragility and our resilience at times like this, and to I mean, the truth of the matter is that we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable because there's breath has no boundaries, and we're all
Mhm.
breathing the same air. We're all
Mhm.
breathing the same breath. So breath connects us, and it deepens our intimacy with that connection with our interdependence.
I would love to ask you before we close to, if you wouldn't mind taking us through maybe a brief exercise, being with the breath, being intimate with ourselves,
Mm.
reconnecting,
Hmm.
if only for a moment.
Yeah. Well, let's do that. I would love to do that.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, and I
wonderful.
would love to do that with you and your community,
Yes.
um, and just let me begin by inviting us to just get comfortable enough to feel our connection with whatever it is we're sitting on, and really surrender ourselves into connection with the earth, this earth quality of the seed or the floor or the ground, and allow the full weight of your body to just surrender, just to soften. And you can feel here the gravitational, you know, reality that Mother Earth is never going to let us go. As long as we're here, she's got us. So just feel the embrace of gravity holding you steady, softening. Imagine the body being a shape, it has its skeletal shape, but then the flesh is sitting softly on that frame as the earth is holding you, softening, letting go with each exhale. Imagining all the internal organs being spacious, easeful. And bring your awareness to the stillness in the body. Just connecting, not with tension, not with effort. Just opening your awareness to the stillness in the body and allowing the stillness to be known. Softening into the stillness of the body. And then bringing your awareness now to the movement of the breath. Noticing where the rise and fall of the breath is most experienced in the stillness of the body. Maybe it's on the belly or the chest. Maybe at the tip of your nose. And bring your awareness to the movement of the breath within the stillness of the body. Being held by the earth. And paying particular attention to the exhale of the breath. Not to manipulate the breath, just to be aware and to ride the exhale of the breath very gently. In a soft body, still body. And allowing whatever thoughts and emotions you might have to just sit in the background for now as you give priority to the stillness of the body and the movement of the breath. Becoming aware of whatever goodness you might feel internally, whether it's stability or warmth. Maybe there's a sense of ease, even if it's a glimmer. Just allow your awareness to turn toward the goodness you're experiencing right now. And allow yourself to be bathed. Every cell in your body being coated with warmth and goodness. And allow yourself a few breaths of just being able to receive fully, to allow yourself to feel this goodness and to allow it to spread through all your limbs, the full of your torso, front and back of the body, the hips, the full of the head. Staying connected to the stillness in the body and the movement of the breath. Just allow this goodness to extend outward in all directions, in front of you, behind you, beneath you, above you. Allowing this goodness to be shared with all in need of it. Sending out this sense of ease, stability, peace, awakeness, care. And with each breath, allowing it to be spread further and further, touching all of those in need. And that would be all of us. Just see yourself in your mind's eye like the high noon sun, touched by your own warmth and light, and radiating this out in all directions. Staying connected to how good this feels. It's okay if you're thinking. We're just not giving thoughts our priority right now. We're just radiating out our goodness, our warmth, our light. So may all beings benefit from our good-heartedness, our good intentions, our care. May all beings benefit from each of us taking care of ourselves in tender ways and wise ways, from a place of stability and awareness that what we do has impact. May all beings be free from distress, free from fear, and may all beings rest in a wise and warm heart.
Yes. Mm.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, how beautiful to be with you in this way and to be offering this to so many people, so many worthy people that need to feel connected in the sense of social or physical distance.
Mhm. Well, just a deep bow of gratitude to you, Ruth King, for being with us today and for sharing your goodness. It is truly, manly, and deeply appreciated.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mm,
All
beautiful.
right.
Okay.
Be
Rest
well.
well. Okay, love. Take
Okay. Thank you.
care. All right.
Thank you guys for joining us for this moving conversation with Ruth King. All righty. Bye.